Alright, so today we're looking at the difference between functions and relations. We're going to have a look and see if we can identify whether a graph or an equation is a function or a relation. So what's the difference? A relation is any set of points that connects two variables. In this case, we're probably going to only be looking at x and y most of the time. And a relation can be expressed as an equation, but it doesn't have to be. Then on functions, we've got functions relate an input to an output. A function is a relation. However, no two different ordered pairs are going to have the same x coordinate. We've got a few different ways we can test if a relation is a function. One of them is algebraically. So if we take a value of x and substitute that into the equation, there should only be one value of y that comes from that value of x. So if I plugged in x is equal to 2 into an equation, if there's two possible y values, then that means it is not a function. We can also look at it geometrically. So if we draw a vertical line on the graph of the relation, each line will cut the graph only once. It's a function. So if I draw a vertical line straight down and it cuts through the graph more than one time, then it is not a function. So a relation often expressed in the form of an equation. For example, we've got y equals x plus 3 and x equals y squared. Each of these equations is going to generate a set of ordered pairs which we can graph. If we want to use the mapping test for functions, this is where we're looking at inputs and outputs. So if we have on the left, each of the value of x maps to a value of y, but we don't have any double ups of x values. So each x value only maps to one value of y. So you can see that we have x is equal to -4, that turns into -6. X is equal to 2, y is equal to 3, x is equal to 5, y is also equal to 3, and that is okay. If we look at the right hand side, you can see that -7 maps to -3, and -2 also maps to -3. And that would be okay, except -2 can also map to y equals 0. So as soon as we have a value of x that gives us two possible y's, it is not a function. The algebraic test for functions, pretty much what we were talking about earlier. If you want to input any value of x, it must only result in at most one value of y. So if we look at the first one, y equals 3x take 1. If I was to say, okay, what is y equals 3, 2 take 1, so x is equal to 2, there is only one solution of y, which would be 6 take 1 is 5. If I look at the second one, we've got x equals y squared. If we let x equal 4, that means that y could be either plus or -2. So we could have 2 squared or we could have -2 squared. The vertical line test, quite simply we just draw a straight line straight down the page. We can use it to basically scan through that function, through that relation. If we get all the way through and it's only ever cutting through the relation once at each point, then it is a function. So our circle here on the left, we can see that it's cutting it in two places, so that means it's a relation, not a function. If we look at this wavy curve here, all of these lines cutting through, it only ever cuts it once, so we have a function. Just going to go through a bit of a lightning round here. So looking at these ones, we've got a drawn out graph. We've also got the equation. So looking at the equation, we can see that if I input any value of x, y is only going to have one equivalent value. Also, if I do the vertical line test, boom, 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 we can see that it's just cutting through the line once, once, once. So that is a function. Number two, similar to what we have in number one, we've got y equals 2x plus 1. This is the equation of a line. So we've got basically y equals mx plus c. So any value of x is just going to give one value of y. So again, function. Number three, we have y is equal to x squared. If I was to input any number into that x, let's do one for example. Let's say, what is y equals 2 squared? That is going to only ever result in a y value of 4. Let's try it with something else. Let's go y equals negative 3 squared. Y is always going to equal 9. So that is a function. And then finally, if we look at number 4, probably guess if we do the vertical line test, cuts through the graph at every single point on the right hand side with 2 values, that means that is a relation and not a function. Number 5, that's a bit of a challenging one because what we've got here is just scattered points. In general, that is going to mean that it is either just single points plotted on the graph, so it doesn't have a function, it's not a curve of any sort, we don't see any kind of pattern, so that is going to be a relation. So we've got points which relate x to y, but they are not a function. Question 6, y is equal to x squared take 9. Let's have a think about it. What happens if I put a value of x in there? Let's go with 3. Y is equal to 3 squared take 9. Y has to equal 0 in that case. Let's try another one. Y is equal to negative 5 squared take 9. Therefore, we would have 25 take 9. And that has to equal 16. So any x value that goes into this equation here is going to come out with an individual y value. So that is a function. Question 7 should be pretty straightforward because we've been looking at these ones for the last couple of lessons. We know that it is called a function, but what we can do here is take our vertical line, and you can see that at no point here do we have more than one point of that curve being collided with. We've got 1, 1, 1. The asymptote is here, 1, 1, 1. So that is a function. With our circle, we talked about this one before. Chopping it through straight away, we've got 2 points. That is a relation. Straight away, relation. We've seen this one before. And this last one, we're just going to have a quick chat about. When we have a solid circle, that represents that point on the graph is included. When we have an empty circle, that means that point is excluded. So from the starting point, we can have a look and we can say that the vertical line would cross through 1 point, 1 point, still 1 point because we've got an excluded and an included, still 1 point, and then when we get to this point here, we're crossing through 2 points. So that is a relation. Hopefully that clears things up in terms of what is a function and what is a relation.